Oh boy, here we are again, once more into the fray of... Are those triangles in the background, or are they just... You know what, I don't know at this point. I've seen too many triangles in my life. But still, welcome back to my pocket dimension of nonsense, waifus, and probably Camilla somewhere. Who knows, she might be here. Still, nonetheless, we're here to talk about something. And that something is... well, healers and staff users in general, and people keep asking me, hey Sages, what's a good healing unit? Hey Sages, how do I build my healer? Hey Sages, you know, this goes on and on and on and on, and well, I'm just going to be quite blunt here when it comes down to it. Staff users in Fire Emblem Heroes are probably some of the weakest units in the game right now. Sure, they can heal. Sure, they can do some pretty interesting buffs with, you know, some of the things that they have. But when it comes down to it, making a healer in Fire Emblem Heroes now, especially with the Inheritance update, is more about which face you would like to have along. Would you like to have Sakura, or Elise, or Lissa, or Rise for some strange reason? Why do you want a balding older gentleman? You know what? Never mind. Forget I asked. Anyways, still, now more than ever, it's more about what you want to make out of it. Because, well, healers can be interchanged. Granted, some of them have different stats, and, you know, some of them might take more damage, or some of them are, for some strange reason, built around trying to be damagey. What the hell are you, Lucius? Seriously. Still, though, healers in general, it's mostly who you want, and... now, more than ever, I mean, I can tell you which ones are better out of the box, and we'll get into that towards the end here, but we're gonna create this little, I wouldn't say encyclopedia, but we're gonna focus on all of their traits that are specific to a staff user, and then I'll give you some ideas for passives and things like that when it comes down to it. But know that any sort of, you know, special skill that comes with a healer can be inherited by another healer, so technically you'll just be able to pick and choose what abilities you may like on your healer. And you can make several different healers depending on, well, the circumstances that you have, the team makeup that you have, things like that. But the general idea of this video is to give you an idea of what's here and what might be lacking, and, you know, good ideas for good passives for them, as well as, you know, potentially characters that are good, just, you know, without having to put too much effort in them as a healer. Alright, so let's just hop right on in, shall we? First I have to put the elements up, and hopefully I'm actually doing that right now. If not, someone call the police, I may be dead. Still though, let's continue on. So, like many unit reviews, we should probably start with the weapon. And healers have a diverse pool of them, I guess. Most of them are based around debuffs, and that is where they kind of excel in that regard. So, when it comes to healers, I mean, weapons aren't exactly the most amazing things for them, but this will allow you to pick and choose if you decide maybe you want a healer that's this character, but you would prefer a different rod, perhaps, maybe. So, different staff for your pickings, whichever you would like. So, let's talk about it, huh? So, the first order of business is the weapon that all healers get, so, well, I mean, it's here, it's Assault, and it does exactly what it says. It's basically just, you know, a ranged attack. Only thing is, with healers, it typically is a ranged attack for very little damage, not much else, and this ability is pretty much only used when, I guess, you might have a unit that's close to death, or you need, I don't know, for some reason, a little bit more damage. It's just the, you know, the common ability. In fact, I don't think, if I recall correctly, a lot of healers don't actually have this learned innately. You actually have to give it to them a little bit, like you have to actually use SP on unlocking it, so not always the best thing to deal with. In fact, you could probably skip over this if you really wanted to, and instead focus more on their healing elements, but still, Assault is their first weapon. So from this point on, you'll start to realize that stabs, well, they branch out quite a bit, and depending on which character you have, you might have a different debuff or utility. And there are things like Fear, which kind of come from, I believe, Clarine and Sakura, and that threatens attack, basically. It's a deduction of 6 attack on the enemy unit after, the attack. Then, of course, there's Rise is Slow, which I believe is kind of unique to him right now, at least. And that's basically the same thing, but instead of attack, it is speed. So, yeah, there you go. From there, we get Absorb. Absorb is... it's a nice idea. It's basically... this comes from Sarah and What's-Her-Face. And basically, what that does is... 50% of the damage dealt is recovered as HP. It's not the most amazing thing. I personally don't think it will have much use, but hey, why not? Then there's, of course, Pain, which if you have ever come across an Azuma, you probably have felt it before, or Lucius, although I really haven't met Lucius out in the training towers too much. Still, what that does is, it's a lot like Poison Strike, where after their turn, where they attack, the unit that was attacked takes an additional 10 damage that can't be mitigated. But that is not all, my friends. No, wait, I have more. You see, there's also 2 more abilities, and that is, well, we'll start off with Gravity, I guess. Gravity is exactly what you think it is. If you have Lisso or Elise, you're probably familiar with it. And basically what this does is, after the unit's hit, well, it's restricted to a certain movement square, which basically means 1 square each side, something similar to how a armored unit would move. That's pretty much all that is. It's nice to have. I'll just go with that. And then we have Panic. Oh boy, Panic. People don't seem to understand Panic too much, but I guess I'll try and explain it easier because, the description's not too informative, but I guess I'll give you an example since it's just easier to point these out. So, basically, when a unit is hit by this, if they have any sort of buff, like say a unit next to them has Hone Speed or Fortify Defense, something like that, of that nature, that will take the positives of that buff and turn it into a negative for that turn. And this also applies to not only, Hone Speed or any of the Hone abilities, or I guess Fortifies, but it also counts to things like Defiant Speed or Defiant Attack, things like that. And it means that units that used to get buffs when they attacked or did certain things or hit certain thresholds, they're now getting penalized for it. It's an interesting ability. The thing that I can think of is Harsh Command. I believe that's the other ability that's basically this, but in a passive form. And I'll be kind of honest, it's actually kind of fun to toy around with. Still though, that's pretty much all there are for weapons right now. It's kind of weird because healers are the only units that I can think of that don't actually have a named weapon that has a special effect with a character, like, like a lot of the other ones, like, just to give an example, Falchion or, God, I'm trying to think of Brynhild and things like that. It's a weird, weird world that we live in, but, healers, maybe one day they'll get a special weapon that does something crazy. But for now, we kind of only have these. So pick your poison. There you go. But before I mention any more of this, in case you weren't paying attention, I have listed all the characters that they do come from, so in case you want to inherit them at all, there they are. That's where they come from. They're listed under the effects on the screen, so pick your poison. As I said, pick it. Pick it, pick it, pick it, pick it. So, okay, let's just talk about command skills now, because, well, we're pretty much done with weapons, so I guess we should probably talk about command skills, right? Those are the shield icons, what healers use to heal, keep you alive in case you're grinding those units out there. Well, let's just start off with the easy ones. The first one is heal, and, well, that is on every healer. That was simple, right? Were you writing that down? Just making sure. Every unit. And then from there, it branches off into different sorts of heals, but usually they kind of do the same thing, but sometimes they have variants, and we'll get into that in a bit. But Mend is the basic upgrade to that. It just does 10 health instead. Nothing too crazy, right? And from there, well, we have Physic, and for those who aren't familiar with this, Physic is a heal that's more at a distance. It has a range of 2 squares instead of 1, so, certain units can reach a little bit further and heal their allies. Yay, I think. And after that we have Reconcile, and Reconcile heals not only the unit being healed, but also the healer. So 7 health for both of them. Not a bad exchange, I guess. I mean, we'll get into some other passives when we talk about these things, but Reconcile's kind of nice. Oh boy, we're starting to get into those commands that they add more cooldown to the counts for special skills. We'll get into that a little bit later. But still, Martyr. Martyr is all about hurting your healer to get better heals, essentially. It restores 7 health, plus half of the damage the character that is healing them has sustained in battle. So, essentially, the more the healer's hurt, the more healing they will do. Pretty basic. Martyr. Kinda interesting. I've actually seen it heal for quite a lot. And then we have Rehabilitate, and Rehabilitate is kind of like the opposite of Martyr. What it does is, it of course heals for 7 health, and heals more the further below 50% health the target is. The more damage the unit, the more the heal. I mean, why not, right? And then of course from there we also have Recover, and Recover is a simple one. It heals for 15. Those both, of course, have a cooldown trigger of +1, so be aware of that. Still, not too bad, and remember, that's only for having them equipped, not if you use them. As you can see with command skills, generally they seem to be more circumstanced than anything else. It's really up to you on how you want to build your healer. Some characters have it, so others don't, so if you decide to change it over, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So try out what you want and see where it goes. Still though, we do have to talk about special skills, and of course all the interesting, unique abilities that healers have. So I guess let's just dive right on in. Let's change it over. Hopefully I'm actually doing this correctly on editing. I'm never too sure. I might be drunk right now, who knows. Still though, we do have Imbue, and Imbue is the end-all be-all. Every healer has it. It is the one ability they start off with that is the special skill, and from there, you know, it's kind of like a theme for all of the healers. It branches out, just like all the heals, just like all the weapons. Nothing too crazy there. But the first skill that they have is Imbue, and what this does is it enhances the heal that they're performing, granting it an additional 10 health. Not too crazy, it's just there. I mean, it's useful. Not much else. Talk about it, really. 10 health, there you go, have fun. And from there, Imbue kind of transforms a bit. You see, certain healers at this point gain access to what are called bomb effects, and bombs are basically, well, they're area-wide buffs in a sense, and they are like hone skills, but you know, less centered, full area, all teammates get affected by it, and you can kind of build, you know, characters and teams around this in a sense. You know, maybe get a different hone and use a different bomb. It's really up to you. But what you have here are, you know, fire, wind, earth, and water bombs. And what these do are, of course, attack, speed, defense, and resistance, all +4, all teammates after a certain amount of actions have taken place. And of course, this will only activate when you heal another unit. So be aware of that. Be aware of that. But Imbue doesn't only evolve into, well, bombs, it also evolves into one of Ryze's unique abilities, which is Heavenly Light. And what Heavenly Light does is, well, it heals all allies for 10 health. I mean, area-wide heal, why not? Let's go with it, come on. Roll with the punches, folks. But there is one unique ability that is not involved with Imbue, and that is, oh, it's Miracle, and some may say it's a miracle. If you're leaving the video now, feel free to. Don't hold back on my regard. Still, nonetheless, what this does, it is, well, it basically means that if your unit is attacked with this, when, you know, the condition is met that they have all the charges, they will, instead of dying from, say, an attack that would kill them, will remain with 1 health. And that's pretty much it. They'll remain with 1 health, they'll survive the attack, and hopefully the next turn they won't die, or maybe they'll die the next turn. Who knows? It's really up to you on that. that part, I guess. Sure, why not? But really, right now, healers are all about just... I mean, their special skills are all about buffs, but really, hone skills kind of take a bit of the edge off when it comes to bombs, and I'll be pretty honest, I don't really know how often you'll be using Heavenly Light. It's a great ability, but, you know, okay. Miracle could potentially stack with, say, Martyr, which, you know, will heal a lot more, but at this point, it's more circumstance on what you want, and, well, build your team around that. Still, nonetheless, when it comes to passives and things like that, we're going to go into that. There's only one unique passive to healers right now that I can think of, and then from there, I'm going to give my closing regards and a few, you know, extra passives that you might want to bring along with you. Just in case you really want to bring along a healer and you gotta do it, okay? I'll give you some options, because why not? Alright, so we're going to start off with the unique passive, and then we're going to go into what I can only assume are at least some solid ideas if you really want to bring along a healer, okay? So, for passives, the first one we're going to talk about is Live to Serve, and this is a passive that is only available to Rise and Elise right now. And these are two characters that you can only get the top rank with it at 5 stars, so be aware of that. And it's called Live to Serve. And what this does is when they heal another unit, they can also heal themselves for 50, 75, or 100% of what they heal to the other unit. So essentially, it's kind of like Reconcile, but a little bit better. In fact, it's completely better, especially if you use any of the better spells. So, yeah, I mean, if you really want to, Live to Serve is a fantastic ability to inherit if you really want to bring it over to another healer, or if you just want to use Rise or Elise. And outside of that, I will give you some recommended abilities in case you don't get Live to Serve, or perhaps you want to change up how you do things. The first one is Renewal. That one's something I've suggested for several characters before, and that is basically on the 4th, 3rd, or 2nd turn, based on rank, your character will gain 10 health. It's unique, it's nice to have in case your healer gets, you know, dinged a little bit. Or if you're trying to use Martyr, it might be frustrating, I don't know, it's really up to you. From there, well, I included Wings of Mercy because, well, it kind of makes sense. Basically, what this does is it allows your unit to teleport to any unit that might be below a certain health threshold, which is 30, 40, and 50 at, you know, the ranks that they have. Oh god, I'm gonna keep going like this, aren't I? Still, the easiest way to obtain Wings of Mercy is from Kane. He gets it at 4 stars, at least for the top max version of it. So, if you have any Kanes, get them up to 4 stars, and then you can transfer that over to any healers you want, or any other characters you want. From there, I threw in HP Plus because, well, usually the characters either are lacking in resistance or defense, so, you know, I figured, well, if they can be tough in one specific area, HP's probably a nice thing to have. You could also, of course, if you want to play up your resistances and things like that, you could always go with Defense Plus or Resistance Plus. It's, again, there's not too much you can really put on a healer that would make much sense. If I see Alyssa with a close counter again, I will lose my mind. So let's not do any of that, okay? Still, nonetheless, HP Plus, easiest place to get it would be Arthur and Donald. They both get it at 4 stars. At least the top rank version of it. And from there, well, it's pretty much up to you on what you want to put in the C slot. And C slot is usually for hone skills, threatening skills, you know, fortifies, things that you want to put in there. I wouldn't suggest any spur skills. Instead, just focus on things that, you know, can buff your units. Maybe if you're going with a bomb effect, go with a different hone. It's really hard to say. It's mostly up to you on that regard to build around your team. I can't give you something, you know, people always go, who's the best healer? Well, it's really subjective. The healers are not the most amazing units right now, and you really need to build them around what works for you. If you want to, you know, someone who just helps with grinding, defensive, then you know, you could go with someone like Sakura who has great defenses and, you know, good bombs that will help with that in both defense and resistance, things like that. It's all situational, it's all up to you, and I'm giving you this option to show you where you can get some of these skills and effects so you can better your healer. But since we're going into the whole closing here, I guess we should probably talk about this, well, because we can. Sages, what is the best healer? Blah de blah de blah, etc, etc, etc. Well, I guess if I were to be a judge in this, Elise is probably the easiest healer to use due to accessibility. She has, buffs, she has live to serve, and she's also, I believe, a cavalry unit, meaning that she can actually move around a bit further than most other healers, which is always a good thing. If you want a good defensive healer, I would say Sakura is also a good option. You have other ones like Clarine and Priscilla, who do their jobs adequately as well, and I mean, outside of that, you have Lucius, who is trying to be a damagey healer, and what? Still, what it comes down to is I really can't give you a healer that would be best in every situation. Hell, I don't even suggest healers for things like Arena, because they tend to get stomped. So, what you want to do is, well, you have to have your options open, and what I'm trying to do here is give you the options, tell you where you can go, and hopefully you can figure out on your own what fits best for your team, or what fits best for whatever situation you're trying to go into. And that's pretty much all I can really say about healers, guys, is they are different, they are distinct, but they are very niche, and I really hope I don't see any in Arena, because good lord, I've seen so many in Arena that they just don't do well on the AI, so you need to be careful with them. I strongly suggest not using them in Arena. Instead, maybe bring them along for story and grinding. That's about it, guys. I'm gonna end this whole video now because, well, I'm tired. It's pretty late, and I think this might actually be a 20-minute video about healing units. Good God. So, for now, guys, I will catch you all later. Thanks for watching. See you soon.